Welcome back to my channel. So today I figured I would show you my flawless foundation routine. Fair warning, I am using a ton of products in this video. I do not typically use this many products on a daily basis, but I figured I would show you everything, every little step, every little thing you could possibly do to get the most flawless face. But feel free to cut out products where you feel they're not necessary or if you don't have them. I don't use this many products usually, but hey, go big or go home, right? I cannot stand to have hair in my face while I'm doing my makeup. Before makeup, I do think it is super necessary to prep and prime your skin. So the products I used for that today are 2 facial moisturizers. The first one is Hope in a Jar for dry skin. So for this, I just took the teeniest, tiniest bit and I dabbed it on the areas of my face that are really, really dry. Right now, because it's winter time, I get really dry skin like right here, right around my mouth, on my eyebrows, and on my hairline. So I just took the teeniest, tiniest bit of Hope in a Jar for dry skin and dabbed it on there. Then I went in with Renewed Hope in a Jar. This is new. I just started using this, but I love it so far. So I used this all over my face, and I also dragged it. I don't know the right word for that. I dragged it down my neck as well, just because it is super necessary to moisturize your neck as well, because that is part of your like facial area. So I used those 2 moisturizers and then an eye cream. Eye cream is so essential to making sure your under eye concealer doesn't crease. So today I used another new product. Today is the first day I have used it, and this is the Bobbi Brown Eye Cream. Is that what it's called? Yeah, Bobbi Brown Eye Cream. So I just took that on my ring finger and dabbed it under my eyes and then rubbed it in. So making sure your face is nice and moisturized and primed is really going to help your foundation go on flawlessly. So the next step, I wet my beauty blender. I am going to be using a beauty blender to apply pretty much everything today. So if you don't know how to use a beauty blender, the sponge comes dry, you run it under the water, you squeeze it a few times, you rinse it completely out, and it's damp and it expands in size. So this is a damp beauty blender. I just cleaned it. By the way, it's on its last leg. It has like a chunk that fell out of it. So this will probably be the last time I use this beauty blender. Ooh. Okay, so step 1, well I guess now this is step 2 because step 1 would have been moisturizing. So step 2 is to prime everything. So for that, actually, you know what? Let's do everything. So I'm going to depuff my under eyes. You probably can't tell, but I do have really bad under eyes. So I'm going to be using the Benefit Puff Off to try to eliminate any puffiness on my under eyes. This is also a new product. I've only used it a couple of times, but I do think it works really well. It's nice and cooling, and it makes my under eyes feel like nice and cool. I'm going to use a face primer and an eye primer. I like to prime my eyes while I prime my face, just because then I don't forget. So for eye primer, I'm going to be using the NARS Pro Prime Smudge Proof Eyeshadow Base. This comes on a little doe foot applicator. It's kind of like a lip gloss. It reminds me a lot of a lip gloss. So I just wipe it on each eyelid, and then I go in with my ring fingers and I rub it in. Now to prime my skin, my face, I'm going to be using Benefit's POREfessional. This is like my 10th bottle of this I have gone through. I just absolutely love this facial primer. I feel like it really does a good job at minimizing the pores on my face. It also has a nice smell to it, and it leaves behind just like this really soft, like almost silicone smooth base. Using a good primer, for me at least, is so essential because it just smooths out my complexion and kind of paves the way for the foundation that is going to follow. Okay, next step is foundation. So today I'm using the Lancome Tient Idole Ultra 24-Hour Makeup. Mine is in the color 210 Buff. It's a neutral shade, so it has both pink and yellow undertones in it. I love this foundation because it comes with a pump. That's not the only reason why I love it, but I do love that it has a pump. But this foundation is just the perfect perfect formula for my skin. I have really oily skin. I have really combination skin. I have an oily T-zone and then my cheeks get really, really dry. This is a full coverage matte foundation, so it leaves my skin just feeling really, really great. It leaves me matte almost all day. Towards the end of like a 10-hour day, I do start to get a little bit oily in my T-zone, but for the most part, this stays put all day. I don't feel like I need to touch up my face throughout the day. I don't need to powder my skin throughout the day. I love it. This is the second bottle of this that I've gone through and I just absolutely love it. So what I do is I put 3 pumps on the back of my hand. I usually don't use all of it, but I find that 2 pumps isn't quite enough. So I do 3 pumps on the back of my hand. I take my beauty blender, the fat side of the beauty blender, and I dab it in there. And then I'm just going to dot it on kind of like the major points of my face. So my forehead, my cheeks, my nose, my chin. Before I buff all of that in, I go back to my hand and I get a little bit more. And I'm going to put foundation on my neck. I feel like it is so important to drag your foundation down to your neck. 1, so that your face matches your neck. And 2, so that everything just kind of blends seamlessly and doesn't look like weird. Even if the coloring matches, your foundation can sometimes be more like flawless than your actual skin, and it doesn't look right. So I like to take it and then I drag it on my neck. So I start like right here, right under my chin, and I drag it down my neck. And this is the only time I drag my foundation as opposed to bouncing it. After my neck is all nice and foundation, I go back to my cheeks. So I like to start with my cheeks and I bounce the foundation in with a beauty blender. Still using the fat side of the beauty blender, I bounce it all in. So then I go to my chin, I go to my other cheek, and I just bounce it around. Alright, now we're going to go in with under eye concealer. So for that, I'm going to use the MAC Pro Longwear Concealer. This is in the color NW20. So this you can use on your under eyes and on any blemishes. I usually just go in with this one product and I use it on my blemishes and my under eyes. Luckily, I don't have a whole lot of like pimples or acne. I do have redness though. I have redness on my cheeks. I have a little bit of discoloration down here from like teenage acne scars, but I don't have a lot of acne to cover up, which is nice. But I still go in with this. Today I'm going to show you how to use a different concealer just because I want to use a crazy amount of products today, but usually in actuality I use just this one. So this has a pump too, which is awesome. So I'm going to go in and just pump 2 pumps on the back of my hand. Sometimes I use a little bit more than 2 pumps. It just depends on how I'm feeling that day. So this is when I go in with the skinny side of the beauty blender. I dab it in that concealer and then I dot it under my eyes. I like to focus a lot on this inner corner, like bridge of my nose. I feel like it's really dark and like brown and purple right there. So I like to focus a lot right there, and then I just drag the remaining amount over and down pretty much to like halfway down my cheeks. I'm gonna go back, get more product, and do the same thing to the other side. So this is when I go back to the fat side of the beauty blender. There's still residual foundation on there, which makes it perfect. And I'm just going to blend everything out so that way it doesn't look, I don't look like a raccoon with some white circles under my eyes. Right, so I'm just wiping off all that foundation on the back of my hand. Sometimes I forget, and then like later on in the day, I'll be typing at my computer at work and I look at my hand and I'm like, wow, there's a big old foundation spot on there. So don't forget to wipe that off. Next thing I'm going to do, this step is totally optional. In fact, I usually don't do this, but you know, I'm going to brighten my under eyes. So before you set anything with any kind of powder, make sure you finish all of your cream products. So the last cream product I have is this Brightening under eye brightener. So this is the MAC Prep and Prime in Radiant Rose. This also reminds me of a lip gloss, but it's not. It looks like this, and it has like a brush tip right here. You twist the bottom and the product squirts out of the top. So this is like super salmon toned. You can use just this, or you can use this in addition to your under eye concealer, or you don't have to use this at all. But the way that I like to use this is on top of my under eye concealer. So I just go in and I paint like a little triangle shape like this under my eyes, under both of them, and I stop right there. You can definitely go in and use this to highlight the bridge of your nose or anywhere else on your face that you want highlighting. I'm not a huge highlighter fan because I have oily T-zones and stuff anyways, so I feel like highlighting just enhances the oil, so I don't highlight anything other than my under eyes. So after I have the triangles on, I'm going to go back with the, you can use the fat side or the skinny side. I'm going to use, let's use the skinny side and just blend that eye brightener out so that way it doesn't look too harsh. Okay, so you have a ton of stuff under your eyes now, a lot of cream products, and the trick to making sure that that doesn't crease is setting it with some kind of powder. They make specific under eye setting powders, or you can just use your normal face powder. I'm going to use a specific under eye setting powder. This is the Laura Mercier Secret Brightening Powder. I'm almost done with this. I've had this for over a year. It lasts forever, but you really don't need a whole lot, which is why it lasts so long. So this product is nice because it has like a sifter in there, so you just don't have a ton of product all over the place. It kind of manages the powder and keeps it separated so it's not all over the place. Anyways, I'm going to apply this with a brush. So I like to use my Sephora Pro Airbrush Concealer number 57 brush to apply this. So really, you don't want to dip the brush right in the powder because then it's going to leave like a white cast and it's going to look just ridiculous. This powder, it is white, but it's like a translucent powder, but it has teeny tiny light reflective crystals in it that just further brighten your under eye. So you have to be careful, you can't use a lot. So instead of dipping it right in the powder, I'm actually going to go to the lid, which just has the tiniest dust of powder on it, but that's all you need. So I'm gonna go in with a brush and just take product right from the lid and set my under eyes. Final step. Is this the final step? Yes, it's the final step. The final step in your flawless face foundation routine is to set your foundation. I find that this is so necessary for me just because I have that oily T-zone. If I don't set my foundation, no matter how fantastic the foundation is, it's just going to get super oily super quick. So I have to set it. Totally optional, you don't have to set your foundation. But today I'm going to be using the MAC Mineralized Skin Finish Natural in the color medium. I love this stuff. This is the third one that I've been through. I have other setting powders that I love, but I love this one the most. You can see it's actually almost gone. I've hit pan on it already. So I'm going to apply that with a Sephora Pro All Over powder brush number 61. This brush is very dense, so it's going to give you a more opaque coverage. And that's really the key to setting your foundation is how heavy do you want your powder to be? Do you want it to, you know, be an extra layer of color? Do you want it to just be a dusting of powder? And that's when you really want to look at what kind of brush you're using. So I also have, like, this is the Sigma Mrs. Bunny large powder F30 brush. This one, they look the same, but this one is not dense. It's nicely concentrated. The bristles are nice and soft, but it's not as like dense and like tightly packed as the Sephora one. So this one is not going to give you as much powder. Some people like that look, sometimes I like that look, but it just depends on what I'm trying to go for. If I want a more flawless look, then I will go in with a denser brush. So I'm going to go in with this one and then take my setting powder, dab it in like this, and then just dust it all over my face. You can also choose to just set your oily part. So if you just wanted to set your T-zone, if that's where you get oily, you can do that. I'm going to set my whole face. I typically set my whole face just because I want to make sure everything matches. That's just me though. You can do whatever you want to do. You don't want to leave your face just like this. If you do, you're going to look a little strange. You definitely want to go in and contour and bronze and highlight if you want to do that and add your blush. And it all really comes together once you put everything else on. So if you want to see that part of my routine, let me know. I did film like a cheek tutorial where I showed you how I bronze, contour, and blush. So I'll link that down below if you want to see how I do that. But if you want to see an updated version, if you want to see something else, let me know in the comment section down below. But I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of my makeup, and then I will show you what the finished look looks like. Alright, so now this is what it looks like after I finish all of my makeup. Here, let me zoom in a little bit so you can see. There we go. So here's how everything looks. So you can see my foundation. Focus, camera, focus. Okay, there we go. Looks just like so flawless and so just beautiful. I love this Lancome foundation. It is probably my all-time favorite foundation. I say that like slightly with a grain of salt because you know our foundations are always changing, our favorites are always changing, but I think right now this one is my favorite. I think it looks so good. This has been my go-to lately. This is my go-to makeup look lately, and I have just been absolutely loving it. Alright, so that is all that I have for you today. Let me know if you have any questions or comments or anything like that in the comment section down below. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you next time.